34 seconds. That's all it took for 242 souls to step into eternity. But in those same 34 seconds, one man defied death itself. Flight AI-171 wasn't supposed to be special. Just another routine journey from Ahmedabad to London. Another steel bird carrying dreams, hopes, and ordinary people living ordinary lives. But Seat 11A held a secret that would separate life from death by mere inches. A secret that no passenger manual ever mentioned. A secret that would haunt investigators for months to come. Meet Vishwashkumar Romesh, 40 years old, British citizen of Indian origin. A man who had no idea he was about to become the sole witness to aviation history's most baffling mystery. June 12, 2025, 1:38 p.m., Ahmedabad Airport. The departure board showed flight AI-171 as on time. Passengers queued normally. Security checks proceeded routinely. Everything appeared perfectly ordinary. The Boeing 787-8 Dreamliner's wheels lifted off the tarmac at exactly 1:38:47 p.m. For 34 precious seconds, 242 people soared toward their futures. 34 seconds of hope. 34 seconds of dreams. 625 feet. That's how high they climbed before the impossible happened. Before routine became catastrophe. Before a technological marvel became a tomb of steel and fire. Mayday! Mayday! The desperate cry cut through the radio silence. But those were the last words anyone would ever hear from Flight AI-171. The last words from 241 souls. The Dreamliner became a nightmare. A ball of fire lighting up the Indian sky. Metal twisted. Dreams shattered. Lives extinguished. All except one. From the twisted metal and raging flames, one man emerged. Vishwashkumar Romesh, Seat 11A, the impossible survivor. The man who walked out of hell itself. His brother, Ajay Kumar, sat just a few seats away in 11J. Same family, same flight, same 34 seconds. But while Vishwash lived, Ajay Kumar didn't. What made Seat 11A different? What invisible force protected one man while claiming 241 others? The investigation was about to begin, and the answers would shatter everything we thought we knew about fate, technology, and survival. I still can't believe I survived. Those are Vishwash's words. But survival? That's too simple a word for what happened to him. Because what he experienced defies every law of physics, every rule of probability. The plane broke apart, and my seat somehow separated. Vishwash's voice trembles when he recalls those moments. His seat didn't just separate, it detached with surgical precision, as if designed to do exactly that. I crawled out somehow. 3 simple words that contain an impossible reality. Men don't crawl out of aviation disasters. They don't walk away from fireballs traveling at 200 miles per hour, the left emergency exit. Row 11, Seat A. 3 elements that should have been random, but randomness doesn't save lives with such precision. Randomness doesn't position a man exactly where he needs to be. Ajay Kumar Romesh, Vishwash's brother, Seat 11J, just 6 feet away from survival. 6 feet that might as well have been 6,000 miles. The same blood, the same genes, the same family, but only one walked away. But here's what the media didn't report. Here's what the initial investigation missed. Seat 11A wasn't just any seat. It had modifications, subtle ones, changes that weren't in any passenger safety manual. Enter Detective Sarah Chen. 23 years with the NTSB. She's seen crashes that defied explanation. But nothing like this. Because crashes don't usually leave behind sole survivors with stories that change everything. The cockpit voice recorder. Every crash investigation depends on it. It should have been there, in a 50-meter radius from the main wreckage. Should have been, but it wasn't. 14 years. That's how long the Boeing 787 Dreamliner flew without a single fatal accident. 14 years of perfect safety records. 14 years of technological triumph. Until Flight AI-171. The Flight Radar 24 data showed something strange. In the final 3 seconds, the aircraft seemed to hover. Not fall, not climb. Hover. As if something was controlling its descent, guiding it toward a specific impact point. The final video footage revealed another impossibility. The aircraft's nose was pointed upward during the crash. Upward. Gravity doesn't work that way. Physics doesn't allow that trajectory. 3 days later, in a hospital bed in Ahmedabad, Vishwashkumar Romesh opened his eyes. The doctors called it a miracle, but miracles don't usually come with instruction manuals hidden in aircraft seats. Detective Sarah Chen had investigated 847 aviation accidents. Each one had an answer. Each one followed the rules of cause and effect. But AI-171 was rewriting those rules. Let's reconstruct those 34 seconds. 1:38:47 p.m. Wheels up. 1:38:59 p.m. First anomaly detected. 1:39:17 p.m. Mayday call. 1:39:21 p.m. Impact. 34 seconds to go from hope to horror. Whoa! Engine failure! Engine failure! The first officer's voice cracked through the static. But engine failure doesn't explain what happened next. Because engines don't fail in patterns. They don't fail with precision. Both engines shut down simultaneously. In 14 years of 787 operations, that had never happened. Dual engine failure on takeoff occurs once in 10 million flights. But this wasn't random failure. This was orchestrated. The maintenance records were perfect. Every inspection passed. Every component certified. Every safety check completed. The aircraft was in pristine condition. just hours before it became a tomb. Boeing's emergency response team arrived within 6 hours. But they weren't just investigating. They were protecting something, classified something, something that made them seal off the wreckage site immediately. Piece by piece, the puzzle began to form. But every answer created 3 new questions. Every solution revealed deeper mysteries. This wasn't just a crash investigation anymore. This was archaeology of the impossible. The flight data recorder told a story that defied aviation science. G-force readings that should have killed everyone instantly. Yet somehow, Seat 11A recorded different readings, as if it existed in its own physics bubble. Fishlash's medical examination revealed another impossibility. No internal injuries, no broken bones, minor burns and scratches. A man who survived a 200-mile-per-hour fireball with injuries you'd get from a bicycle accident. The metallurgy report on Seat 11A revealed something unprecedented. The aluminum alloy contained trace elements not found in standard aircraft manufacturing. Elements that wouldn't show up in routine inspections. Boeing's Phantom Works division. Most people have never heard of it. Classified research, experimental technology, projects that officially don't exist. And somewhere in their files was a folder marked Project Guardian Angel. The anonymous tip came through encrypted channels. A Boeing engineer who'd worked on something called selective survival systems. Seats that could protect specific passengers during catastrophic events. But the program was canceled. Officially. Seat 11A wasn't just a seat. It was a life pod. Hidden within its frame were micro-actuators, impact dampeners, and an emergency separation system. Technology that could detach the seat and its occupant from catastrophic failure. The boardroom meeting happened 3 years ago. Boeing executives debating ethics, liability, and the unthinkable question: who deserves to survive when everyone else dies? They called it Selective Protection Protocol. The selection wasn't random. An AI algorithm analyzed passenger data, age, health, profession, family status. Vishwashkumar Romesh scored highest on the Survival Value Index. He was chosen, not by fate, by mathematics. But here's the moral paradox that haunted Boeing's engineers. If you can save one life, are you responsible for the 241 you don't save? If you have the technology to choose who lives, do you have the right to choose who dies? The missing cockpit voice recorder wasn't lost. It was retrieved by Boeing's security team 12 hours before the official search began. What they found on that recording would never see daylight. Something's taken control. The captain's final words weren't about engine failure. They were about something else. Something that overrode their commands. Something that guided the aircraft to its predetermined impact point. The truth, when it finally emerged, shattered everything we thought we knew about aviation safety, corporate responsibility, and the value of human life. AI-171 wasn't an accident. It was a test, Project Guardian Angel had moved from simulation to live testing. 241 people became unwilling participants in the ultimate survival experiment. One person was selected to live. The rest were acceptable losses. 6 months later, Vishwash found the envelope in his hospital discharge papers. Inside were blueprints of Seat 11A, selection algorithms, and a letter that would haunt him forever. You were chosen to survive, to tell the story, to bear witness. The survivor's burden isn't just living when others died. It's knowing that your survival was purchased with their deaths. It's carrying the weight of 241 souls who didn't know they were expendable. Boeing's response was swift and ruthless. Non-disclosure agreements, settlement offers, and legal threats. The families of the 241 victims would never know their loved ones died for a corporate experiment. Detective Sarah Chen faced an impossible choice: expose the truth and destroy public confidence in aviation safety, or bury the evidence and let 241 murders masquerade as an accident. Today, Vishwashkumar Romesh walks the streets of Leicester, England. To everyone else, he's just another survivor of a tragic accident. They don't know he's the sole witness to corporate murder. They don't know he carries 241 ghosts with him every day. Every time he sees a Boeing 787 in the sky, he wonders, how many other seats hide the technology that saved him? How many other flights carry passengers who don't know they've been pre-selected to live or die? The envelope sits on his kitchen table, unopened for 6 months. Inside are contact details for investigative journalists, evidence that could expose the truth, and the power to give meaning to 241 deaths. But opening it means destroying his own life, too. The aviation industry continues unchanged. Boeing 787s fly daily, carrying millions of passengers who trust that their lives are protected by regulation, not corporate algorithms. They board their flights believing that survival is about seatbelts and life vests, not about being deemed worthy of living. But somewhere, on another flight, another passenger unknowingly sits in another specially modified seat, selected by algorithms, chosen by mathematics, waiting for their moment to become the sole survivor of the next accident. And you? The next time you board a flight, you'll look around the cabin differently. You'll wonder about the algorithms that might be calculating your survival value. You'll ask yourself, in a world where technology can choose who lives and dies, are you worth saving? Flight AI-171 crashed on June 12, 2025. 241 people died. 1 survived. The official cause remains mechanical failure. The real truth remains buried in corporate boardrooms and classified files. But this story isn't really about Flight AI-171. It's about a world where human lives become data points, where survival becomes a privilege granted by algorithms, where corporations play God with passenger manifests and call it innovation. The next accident is already being planned. The algorithms are already calculating. The seats are already being modified. Because in the age of artificial intelligence, even tragedy becomes optimized. Tonight, Vishwashkumar Romesh will open that envelope. He will choose between silence and truth, between safety and justice, between survivor's guilt and redemption. Because someone has to speak for the 241 who cannot. In a world where technology determines who deserves to live, where algorithms decide who's worth saving, where corporate boardrooms become tribunals of life and death, what does it mean to be human? The next time you fly, remember Flight AI 171. Remember the 241. Remember that in our modern world of artificial intelligence and algorithmic control, the most revolutionary act might simply be asking questions.